It's time for AggroChat, the official podcast of the Tales of the Aggronaut blog and stalwart gaming community, where we talk about stuff and things, and the stuff about the things, and sometimes gaming. I'm Belghast, and let's start the show. Hey folks, it's that time again. Time for another episode of AggroChat. This is episode 483. Tonight I'm joined by Ammo.
Hello.
Ashgar.
Hello.
Grace.
Hi.
Kodra.
Don't call it a comeback.
Tam.
Hello.
And Thalen.
I am back.
Woohoo! What is Fallen Aces?
Fallen Aces it's a retro-styled first-person shooter that's harkening back to the Doom era.
Okay, kind of like Bolt Gun, the Warhammer 40k one.
So, Bolt Gun is harkening back to like Quake.
This is harkening back to Doom when you didn't have, like, you could theoretically do vertical scanning, but you really couldn't with the tools you had.
Sort of. It is themed around like 20s gangsters.
Okay.
And it's going for a really hard like comic book cell shaded style, but it has I can't remember the official name for it. I've been thinking about it for a while and I can't remember it. But it's like, you know how in Doom, if you shot an enemy and they died, and then you tried to walk around them, they would rotate along with you like a standee.
Mm-hmm.
This is doing that.
Oh, the enemies are like all like sprites, not 3D models.
Yes, the enemies are and do appear to be sprites and not 3D models in a 3D game world. That's also done in that same like comic booky style. I've never seen a game use. Like, I've seen a lot of games that do like retro styling because it's retro, not because they're actually using it to an effect. And in this case, it's actually working. It works as an effect because it's going so hard into this comic book style that it's almost like a comic book page is moving against the background. And then it's just got big, expansive, interesting levels for you to wander around in. It's pretty neat. It's fast paced. It's not terribly hard. I mean, it's got difficulty settings. You can tweak it. It's very all in on its bit, the same way like Max Payne is. You know, it's a kind of game where there's like comic book. Somebody pounds on a door and like enemies are pounding on the door, and you can see like comic book
Thump, 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 thump type.
Yeah. It's not quite all the way to like No One Lives Forever, but it reminds me of that game.
No One Lives Forever feels like it's a forgotten gem at this point.
I'm so bummed about No One Lives Forever because we just forgot about No One Lives Forever for some reason.
It was in a really awkward time when it came out too.
It doesn't help that I'm pretty sure you can't legally acquire it.
Yeah.
And have not been able to for a long time.
Yeah, that.
This is not to say
piracy
that
only.
I don't have it. But yeah, I'm pretty sure you have to jump through many questionable hoops at this point.
Yeah.
When it's not even on like GOG, you know that there are problems.
Yeah, I think
there's some weird
it's one of those
licensing issues, if I remember
it's one
correctly.
of those cases where nobody's certain who owns parts of the property.
This was an old Xbox game, right?
I played it on PC.
I didn't know it came
Sierra?
on Xbox. Maybe it did. I don't know.
I don't know. I think it was published by Sierra. It was Monolith.
Right. I don't even know who owns Monolith now.
That's the problem.
Right.
Doesn't Nintendo own Monolith?
They might own the name. I don't know. I think Warner Brothers still owns it and has for about 20 years.
Oh, so it's just gonna die horribly and never come back.
Oh, almost certainly. Yeah.
It's infuriating.
Somehow they'll figure out a way to write it off as a tax write-off by not releasing it.
Apparently, Monolith is currently working on a Wonder Woman game. All right. I mean, they are owned by Warner Brothers, I guess. I wasn't sure if Monolith actually had any employees currently, or just existed as a name. But yeah, No One Lives Forever was brilliant, and it's incredibly sad that like people can't play it anymore.
Seriously, it bummed me out. And it's neat to see somebody kind of. I'm not going to say that they're picking up the No One Lives Forever torch. Like that's taking it a little bit far. But there's some really interesting stuff going on with like, oh, they've got a bunch of animation stuff. Like there's a lot of melee in the game, which means that you get up close to your enemies a lot, so you can see their animations a lot more, including like finishers, which have that similar like you get a really like rendered comic book, expression. It's got like just the right amount of voice acting to sell its vibe. It's just I've been messing around with it, but really enjoying the like. It's like just the right amount of silly, but also feels really cool to play.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to check this out.
It's definitely I picked it up on sale and like definitely have no regrets.
Speaking of games that are spiritual successors to other games from a similar era, I'm pretty sure Graven officially released like last week after last, something like that. And if you liked Hexen like a lot, you should check out Graven.
Is that the Fantasy Doom, aka Hexen?
Yes, it is. It is one of the best spiritual successors to that type of game.
I did like Hexen.
It's really good. Like it's actually kind of. I mean, it has puzzles to solve. It has that sort of stuff going on. I played quite a bit of it. It's a newer engine than Hexen was, but it still feels like Hexen.
While we're still on the topic of spiritual successors, a game came out with a demo during Next Fest called Glide the Dragon, a game which was very much like they wanted this game to be like Spyro, but the actual execution ended up being pretty different because they felt that combat should maybe be a thing that actually happens. And again, that's just a demo for right now, but it is really interesting. And it's not like any new Spyro games are coming along anytime soon.
Yep.
Yeah, that's a true fact.
With the people starting to do like retro shooters, I do hope at some point we go through a phase where people start doing retro immersive sims.
Like
Deus Ex.
I would love to see Night Dive do their thing with Deus Ex.
I mean, I am more interested, like, hey, let's start the idea of you're in a level, quote unquote, that has a lot of objectives and a lot of ways to achieve those objectives, like DIDS levels. That's what I'm looking for. I
mean, Dishonored did this thing.
I should go back and play more Dishonored.
I mean, if you haven't played all of it, then absolutely you should go back and play more Dishonored, and possibly even then.
I'm also here to tell you gotta play Cyberpunk.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah, like
it's real good. Like, and there's so many varied choices that could be made.
It is it is very much the modern immersive sim.
Sure. I do own it. I should start playing it.
It's super good. Like, especially with all of the updates and so forth that it's gotten over the years. Like I think that it is now quite comparable to like any of the Deus Ex games. And I love that series.
But it's definitely a game that has lots of different ways to solve the same problem.
Yeah. And I'll need to give it a try.
So how was Origins?
Origins was really good. It was a experiment of a con in that I was staying in a con-attached hotel, and for at least 2 of the nights, my son was staying with me. So we got to experience more con than we are used to. This was really fun. And I love Origins. There are really no cons quite like it out in the like West Coast, where it's got a density of events that you can schedule yourself up for, and lots of different like most conventions I see in my area are more, hey, like there are panels, but like there's a schedule, but you're not like you're doing it in a big group setting. There's not a lot of like, hey, would you like to like run your experimental weird indie game here? Sure, you can sign up an event and we'll see if you can get 6 people to sign up for it. This is very true for Gen Con. It's also true for Origins. I had a blast. Probably the biggest thing that I got to experience is Amped Guard. And if you're not familiar with Amped Guard, do you remember back in the early 2000s that video of a bunch of nerds running around screaming lightning bolt? That's Amped Guard. We
boy.
were not playing as classes per se. It was mostly just a bunch of boffer battles. You could have a sword, you could have a shield, and they had a bunch of different event types that they were like basically mustering a group of people to do. The most popular is Ditch, where you line up into 2 teams, and then you charge at each other. And if you die, you go back to your camp where you started. Whichever team wins has to send over the first player of theirs that died to the enemy team. Sort of like a self-balancing thing. It was a lot of fun, and both me and my son had a really good time with it. I should probably explain a little bit about how the game actually worked, though. So you have your sword that you are trying to hit your opponents with. If you manage to hit them squarely in the torso, in the back, on like the shoulder area, that is a straight up kill. Headshots were forbidden, so if you hit someone in the head, nothing happened and you had to sort of stop and say, hey, are you okay? Really not supposed to do that. If you manage to hit someone in the arm or leg, that is basically they lose access to that arm or they lose access to that leg. They can either go to their knees and hobble around, or they can do what's called posting, where they're able to stand, but they're not allowed to move that leg and they have to pivot around it. It was really good, and now my wrist hurts a lot.
I bet it does.
Yeah, it turns out there are people who are very good at this, and there was this one girl I was battling who I was like, oh, you actually know like fencing, don't you? When somebody takes a swing and like in the middle of it manages to circle their sword around you and then reverse their angle of attack, that's sort of just like, nah, cool, you win. It was very impressive watching some of the better people playing this game. It was very fun. And then it was like, oh, actually, it's like time to shoot, like find somebody. We're going to shield wall up and we're going to like play defensive and see what we can do. It was good camaraderie. There was a moment where it was 4 of us versus, I'm going to say, about 16 of them. And we managed to win, but the one person, like our best person, died first. And so they switched teams, and it was like net 3 on 17, and suddenly they were against us. It was very much a, well, we who are about to die salute you.
Oh my.
But yeah, 3v17 was a heck of a thing. So Amped Guard, kind of fun. I'm probably going to check out our local chapter when I get home.
I feel like local is in big quotation marks there, if I'm remembering correctly.
Oh, they have one in. So there is like the overall Washington group, but there is a chapter in Redmond.
Okay.
Now they do sometimes they have nights in Redmond and nights in Bothell, but the main days are in Redmond.
Oh, I was thinking of the other one where it's just like not big parks way south of here.
Oh, no. That I have to guess that that's something different. I don't know what that is. But yeah, So this was my first experience, like actually doing boffer LARPing and amped guard. It was a lot of fun. Let's see. I had a list. We also did a number of RPGs. We signed up for a game called Agnith Sep 555. The title is actually the Advanced Dimensional Green Ninja Educational Preparatory Super Elementary Fortress 555.
Oh my.
Well,
Yes. This is apparently a tabletop RPG that's been running for like 25 years now at these conventions. And the idea here is that they have a collection of characters that are like cartoon characters that you would potentially fit into like a Saturday morning cartoon. The mechanic is you have like a report card that shows what your grades are in various stats, and that those also show like the number you're trying to roll under. But more importantly, you can just pass any roll if you eat a piece of candy. And you start with a bunch of candy, and there's a bunch of ways for you to get more candy. For example, there is Willow, who is the hyper-competitive monster trainer. She gets a piece of candy whenever she comes in first at something. And the GMs really like milk it. Like, everyone has to go through a character introduction, and Willow is always the first character introduced, and she gets a piece of candy for being the first character introduced. And then when her grade comes around, she gets introduced again, and she gets a second piece of candy for being the first character introduced a second time. If Willow can ever justify anything that she is the first person to do in a game, she gets a piece of candy. This is the character that my son played. He had a blast. I was Christopher Robin, the laid-back Pokemon or monster trainer that was trying to unionize everything. I was the communist, and I didn't care about winning monster battles. I cared about sticking it to the man. It was great. It was hilarious. It was a lot of fun. They encourage you to make a whole bunch of art during it. So like there are pictures of all of my son's like monsters that he made, like cutting out scrap paper. I had a bunch of union memberships. I got various other characters to sign to like join me in my revolution. There's one character that was always a standout. Her name's Charity. She's a kindergartner. She has a toy stuffed animal named Mr. Bun, and she's gonna fight you if you do anything threatening to Mr. Bun. And she carries around a street lamp, like a street sign with 80 pounds of concrete attached to it. That type of character.
Oh my.
But like the way they do it is like you get a character, you pick your characters. All of the characters are roughly the same. Like apparently over the years they've like shifted a few of them, but mostly like you're gonna play a static character. How those characters interact is like up to you, but it's Saturday morning cartoon logic. So you can just basically, as the GMs, they come up with what's the like framing for this episode of this cartoon. Let all of the characters run nuts with these framing devices. And
Is
then
there a commercial break?
There's a commercial break if ever the school explodes, which
What?
did happen in the LARP. We had the school explode. Everyone was sent to the nurse's office. And when we did that, they did do a commercial break in which all of the characters came up and gave pitches for their commercial in character. I was Ivana, the kindergartner psychic, aka the small medium at large.
Yes, of course.
Yes. And my thing was like I see dead people and dead people suck. And so like my commercial was have you ever thought about what happens when you die? Do you want to make sure that like you don't wander the halls of this school annoying me constantly? Buy life insurance. Anyways, we did both a TTRPG of this and a LARP of this. I could definitely see continuing to do one shots of this, and like they encourage you to keep cycling through the different characters and get different takes on them. This is also the RPG company that does Dread, which is a bit of a whiplash, let me just tell you. I got to finally play Dread, which is a tabletop RPG that is a horror game. And the mechanic is, if ever the GM needs your character to make a check, you pull a piece out of the Jenga tower and put it on top. If the tower falls, you are dead or you are cursed to die very soon. But like you are functionally out of the game when the tower falls. And yeah, that makes games very tense. Like,
Yeah, I imagine so. Jeez.
you always have the opportunity to choose to fail at whatever check you're doing and not pull from the tower, but like that's just going to make things worse for you going forward. But I was playing that in that game. I was sort of, we were like World War II band of brothers. Like we parachuted behind enemy lines, took out artillery emplacements, and then we like it was brutal. Like most of our group died. We camped for the night with like the few people that we could gather up that remained, and when we woke up, we were in the Fey realm.
Well,
Welp. And apparently we were hunted by the huntsman. We did not make it out of this one. I managed to get all the way to the end, and then I chose to stay behind to give one person an opportunity to escape. And they had to do 33 pulls from a fresh Jenga tower, which is possible. We got to 36 before the tower first fell, but they didn't manage to get to 33. The other very cool thing about this game is the character creation. Like, so the character I was given was the communications officer. And the way they tell you to do it is to like, you get 2 sheets of paper with a series of questions on them. You need to answer the questions in order without looking forward. So you like take the 1 sheet of paper and turn it over and like hide the rest of the questions until you answer them. And like these questions are leading and in some ways directed, like trying to push your character in certain directions. And like, but like you're trying to like figure out, okay, so this character that like the game is expecting to exist has some features to it that are just because the like the way the questions are asked. Like for my character, like the first question was, why was your family unaffected by the Great Depression and the stock crash? And like that means I'm probably from either a family that is very well off or very poor off.
Mm-hmm.
And I chose with very well off. And then the next question, why are you the black sheep of your family? And then eventually in this game, they're like, what they apparently do is there's a twist question where it's like, question 7 was, why did you refuse to send out the message when you knew it was your job to do so? So like, why was I derelict in my duty? And it's like, oh, wait.
That's some Voight Kampf stuff right there.
Oh, wait, now I need to rethink this character. Why were they derelict in their duty? Like, what happened?
Why won't you turn the turtle over?
Yeah.
I can't remember what it was, but it was, why are you feeling like everything is meaningless? And I think my response was, because I keep trying to do good and everything just keeps getting worse. So by the time you start the game, you have already put yourself into this character's mood. And the last question of every one of these is, okay, what's your name now? Like, now that you have like fully thought through this backstory, now name your character. The session was scheduled for 5 hours and we went about 4 hours. It was good. They started it at 8 and it was pretty spooky, I'm gonna say. If you get a chance to run Dread, go for it. If you want a bit of a good horror RPG. And if you want something goofy, run Agnepsef 555.
I haven't played Dread in years, but it was a heck of a time the last time I did.
The other game, so one of the cool things about Origins is they had a kids room where it was like a bunch of kids only activities, and one of the activities was a My First RPG, which had an extremely patient GM trying to guide 5 kids, mostly like between the age of 7 and 12, through a RPG using, in their case, he had 2 options. It was either going to be No Thank You Evil or is it Hero Kids, I want to say?
Mm-hmm. I have both of those.
They chose Hero Kids, and that was very fun.
Yeah, when you were mentioned that before, I told my son about that, that your son, who he is now friends with, played it, and he was very interested. So maybe I'll actually get him to play a TTRPG, because
it's definitely a good one. Like, they've got a bunch of fun characters, and then it's like, hey, what are you gonna do? Okay, make a roll. We'll see if it's a success. Eli was playing the healer and very, very happy to be diligently making sure that anyone who got bruised was getting healed immediately.
We'll train him out of that, I guess.
We also did a learn to play Dungeons and Dragons, which was about 2 hours. It went through about 2 conflicts, and it was a good introduction, and he seemed to have a good time. Like, he was playing the rogue, and he was having fun sneaking up and using his daggers on people. So overall, very successful con for introducing tabletop RPGs, and also LARPs, because I believe I said it, but we did 2 sessions of the cartoon RPG, and one of them was a live action role play. It ended with a paper airplane contest, which great fun. Like, I love the physical silly aspects of that. We also got to see a lot of board games. I got to play Charcuterie, which is a very fun game. Basically, you're trying to build a charcuterie board, matching your dips, your breads, your cheeses, your meats, your veggies, and your fruits, and trying to arrange them in ways that score points and look and fit inside of the proper areas. I thought it was very cute. And other than that, I think that was most of the convention, and it felt pretty packed to me. But I do recommend, if you can go to an Origins or a Gen Con, they are a blast. And definitely check out Windmill Games, who is at both of those.
So one of the things that occasionally happens is one of us will miss a show and a topic comes up, and the person who wasn't there wants to revisit it. So we talked about Nintendo Direct a bit at the tail end of last week, and I believe there was a specific game that Kodra wanted to talk about.
I mean, I definitely want to talk about Mio. It looks so Hollow Knight, but it also looks very fast and exciting movement, and a little bit, it's got a lot of different games actually going on. A little bit Messenger, a little bit Hollow Knight. It looks really fun from what we saw.
No, as soon as I saw that come up, I was like, oh, this looks like right up Kotra's alley.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I messaged Kodra.
I mean, there is definitely a fight that looked like a Nightmare King Grim to me. So, I don't know. Like, the way you were moving through those areas also looked exciting and fun and interesting. I'm really excited about that. The other game I know we talked about, but like I want to talk about a little bit, is the Zelda game, which I am definitely going to play, but I have my reservations, mostly because I don't know. I have a hard time imagining how the power set of copy any sprite doesn't just like devolve the game very, very quickly into a couple of like first order optimal solutions to most things.
Yeah, I'm curious if this is going to end up like playing Scribblenauts, where Cthulhu is the answer to most problems.
Yeah. And like,
I feel like they have a chance to make the problems you need to solve varied enough that the solutions are, I guess, different enough. Because like Link Between Worlds is a game that lets you conquer the dungeons in essentially any order because you have the rental shop right there. Like you can get the items you need to go into the dungeons whenever you want. So there is like, it's not a directed experience really. And I suspect this is going to play out similarly.
Interesting. Because yeah, like I wonder if this is like one of their takeaways is because that's also kind of my problem with Breath of the Wild, and I haven't played it yet, but I don't know that Tears of the Kingdom is really solving it. Is that's also not really a very directed, it's a very undirected experience actually.
The intro to Tears of the Kingdom is a little bit more on rails, but like once the game opens up out of the tutorial area, it's the same. Go do some stuff. Maybe it'll do what you want to do type experience.
And so maybe this will feel different to me. I'm definitely gonna play it. I haven't played Tears of the Kingdom. I'm definitely gonna play this.
Did you play Link Between Worlds?
I feel like I did play Link Between Worlds, but as soon as you said rental shop, I'm like, wait, what's he talking about?
I'm not sure you played Link Between Worlds.
Isn't that kind of the spiritual successor of Link to the Past?
Yeah, on the 3DS.
Yeah, I definitely played that.
Okay.
I feel like I even beat it, but I played a lot. I do remember playing that.
To be completely fair, it was 9 years ago.
That's a long time.
Mm-hmm.
But I also don't know that I don't know if I was trying to take things in a specific order or if I was like just trying to play it like a Zelda game I normally would play. I don't know. But I don't remember it being undirected.
I mean, it's sort of directed in the same way that Link to the Past is, in that you need to do these 3 things, and then you need to do these seven things.
Yes.
But the order in which you do those things is much more open.
Which I don't believe it was in A Link to the Past.
No, in Link to the Past, it definitely isn't for the first 3, and then it's less, like, a little more open for the second set of dungeons, for the Dark Road dungeons, but not that open.
Well, this was kind of my issue with Breath of the Wild too, is it really felt like the game encouraged you to go to some really terrible places really quickly. And like, if you were just following that and maybe even doing all of the shrines that you would get to on that normal path, you were not ready to fight stuff in Zora's domain. There were some Lizalfoses there that had the twin axes, and they dealt 5 hearts of damage.
I don't know. Cooking is OP, so...
Cooking is OP. Clearly, you should just cook more. But yeah, I'm very excited. I love the idea of playing as Zelda. That's great. A little sad it's not a more traditional Zelda game, but
more traditional Breath of the Wild. Oh,
it's more traditional than Breath of the Wild.
Yeah, I'm just amazed that we're getting a Zelda game that's not another Breath of the Wild.
Same.
Like,
I'm surprised that this didn't get a spin-off title.
Yeah, that too, yeah. It's like not starring Link, not Breath of the Wild, and it's still like main Legend of Zelda. Okay, yeah. And I am absolutely going to pick it up hopefully it is actually good. I'm definitely going to play it. I really want it to be good. But if for no other reason than just to encourage them to, keep making non-Breath of the Wild Zelda, please.
So, I was looking today to try and remind myself what happened in the Direct. This game is coming out in September?
Yep.
That feels very short time frame for me to just be hearing about this game.
I mean, they are tired of hearing about Metroid Prime 4 too. I think they have started to just announce games closer to when they're coming out.
Yeah, they've learned that things slip sometimes.
I mean, I'll be honest. I would rather games get announced within that time frame.
Yeah, I'm fine with surprises.
That's fine.
I don't mind.
I mean, that was kind of about the same time frame we had for Fallout 4, and I thought that was ideal that I heard about it, and then a few months later, I got to play it.
Didn't have time to forget that it was coming.
Exactly.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, I was kind of disappointed when they announced the Dragon Warrior 3, the Dragon Quest 3 remake, that it's not coming until November. It's like, why? Like, just give it to me now.
That was announced years ago, though, wasn't it? This is the first time we've seen it, admittedly. But wasn't it announced like in 2022 or something like that?
I guess they did it. I don't know. This is the first I had heard of it, but maybe I
To be
wasn't
fair,
paying enough attention.
I'd basically forgotten about it because
Yeah.
it was 2 years ago.
Right.
How reasonably can I play all of the Metroid Prime games?
Very. They've all been re-released on the Switch.
Yep.
Really?
Yeah, they're all available on the Switch now.
I knew they remade 1,
Mm-hmm.
but I didn't think 2 or 3 were easy to play on the Switch.
I'm pretty sure they all are. I know 1 is. Oh yeah, 2. Yeah, 2's GameCube. So I think maybe they've announced. Maybe I'm just imagining it. You can at least play 1.
I thought the
So
trilogy had
the
come
trilogy
out.
I
got
thought it had
released
2.
on the Wii U.
I thought the trilogy hit
Oh.
Switch. Am I hallucinating?
I must be, because I would have sworn the trilogy was available too.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, here we go. Yeah, no, Metroid Prime trilogy. Wait, what? Remastered. Yeah, remastered. Okay. Yeah, no, remastered
This
version
came
of
out on
Metroid
the
Prime on
Wii.
Switch, but not the trilogy.
This came out on Metroid Prime Trilogy came out on the Wii, and Metroid Prime got a remake on the Switch last year, year before, something like that.
Yeah.
It's not easy to
It's
play 2 or
relatively
3 right
recently.
now.
I'm sure it will become easy like
Between now
sometime
and
between
then?
now and 2025.
I also think this.
Yeah.
Seems
They
very
did it.
likely.
They did it with Pikmin, they'll do it with Metroid Prime. But yeah,
It's just
Metroid,
not easy right now.
the first one at least you can, and like it's a great game. And you don't even have to mess with Wii motion controls.
Considering it was a GameCube game to start with.
It's true. That's what I originally played it on. I think it was Metroid Prime. Metroid Prime 3 was the one that the motion controls
Yep.
just became too much. I never finished Metroid Prime 3, and I'm kind of sad about it.
It released on the Wii and has never been released on anything else.
I really didn't think I was going to like Metroid Prime, and I really liked Metroid Prime.
Yeah,
I played the original Metroid Prime. I'm thinking I haven't played 2 or 3, but I don't know. It's been so long. All I remember is this very haunting moment when you would a flash of lightning and you would see Samus's eyes on her visor.
Uh-huh.
That was a cool effect.
That and anytime Ridley shows up.
Oof.
They did a good job making Ridley scary. But yeah, hopefully 2 and 3 we will have versions of them on the Switch soon-ish. And then also Dragon Quest 1 and 2 on the Switch. I'm here for this. I love those games.
I've never played 1 or 2.
So Dragon Quest 1 is very simplistic, as one might expect for the first in the series, but it's a fun game.
Yeah.
And it's really neat seeing how the series developed from game to game. Because the first game, you just got one character. It's just the hero. It's in the second game, you've got a party. In the third game, it's got a job system.
And a custom party.
Yeah.
That's the first game I played in the series.
I got Dragon Warrior for free for subscribing to Nintendo Power.
Maybe that's how I ended up with it.
And that was a thing they did.
Yeah.
And it was really close to release too. It wasn't like it was an old game when they did this.
Yeah, because I don't know if I would have known to buy it, but I definitely have 1 through 3 on as Nintendo cartridges.
I mean, I think I owned 2 and 3, but I don't know if I have them or if they're buried somewhere at my folks' house. But I definitely bought them because I got the first one for free and got hooked. At what point did they stop calling it Dragon Warrior?
When they finally got the freaking rights to Dragon Quest in this country, which I think was 8.
I think it was 8, yeah.
It was a really long time.
It was a very long time, yes.
Not to be confused with Dragon Slayer, which is a different game.
Mm-hmm.
Game series. So in Dragon Warrior, are you a dragon who is a warrior, or are you a warrior who fights dragons?
It's
You are
the
a
latter.
warrior who fights dragons.
In the first 3 games, you are in the first one you are the hero who is like the descendant of Erdrick, and then are you actually Erdrick in the second one? It's been
No,
so
you're Erdrick
long.
in the third one.
In the third one, you're Erdrick, but the first 3 are the Erdrick trilogy.
Yes, and this is why they're releasing Dragon's Quest 3 first, and then Dragon Quest 1 and 2, and telling you to play 3, 1, and 2 in that order.
Because 3
Basically.
takes place first chronologically. Yeah, because that's actually Erdrick, and then 1 and 2 are much later, long after, like the world has fallen, and you have to, rise up and defeat the Archfiend. But yeah, I mean, Dragon Quest is very much what you would expect from somebody played Ultima and Wizardry and thought, I want to make a game like that, and got Akira Toriyama to help out with, concept art.
I'm going to be honest. I don't remember what NGS stands for.
New Genesis.
New Genesis.
Wait, okay. Are they literally saying NGS instead of NG?
Yes. That is how they decided to acronymize.
Genesis.
Look, it's fine. It's
Maybe
fine.
the S stands for Sega?
Sega.
Who even knows? But I don't remember what I was talking with Ash about that made me think I should boot this game up.
What to do between now and FF14?
Was it?
That's what caused me to boot it up.
Because
We were talking about it like on the last day.
yeah, because it was one of those games that like we booted it up. Several of us booted it up and played a bunch of it like right when it came out.
Mhm.
And I feel like our takeaway was, hey, it's really fun, but it's kind of half baked.
Yeah, sounds about right.
Like it
I remember it feeling kind of pointless. Like there wasn't a lot of
It didn't have a
direction
ton
of
of
what you're
content.
supposed to do.
Yeah, and it led me to think like, I mean, it's been years.
It's been 3 years.
What's going on? They seem to have added a lot. They also seem to have figured out a few things about, hey, maybe XP should come a little bit more easily.
They boosted XP by like triple
Yes.
for returning players.
Also, your subclass gets XP.
Ooh.
And they added a bunch of classes in, including, ones that I was interested in and the game didn't start with. So I've jumped back into it, and it's fun. It's just like arcadey fun, and I don't know. Maybe this is a precursor to our next topic, but I'm really interested in what is a modern online multiplayer persistent world game look like, because there's a lot of the ones that exist are they're good, but they're also the last generation's designs.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know that there's really been this is what the next kind of MMO looks like that anybody's really figured out. And
As long as you don't count like looter shooters or lobby shooters.
well, yeah, but that's not a persistent world.
Fair.
Like, and I think that's the part that's interesting. And like PSO2 originally, I had a hard time with like, does this really count as a persistent world? Like Destiny, I had the same thing where
It's a bunch of lobbies, basically.
yeah, it's a bunch of lobbies. There is something ineffable about a persistent world where you can just walk. You don't have to hit a load screen to go to the next thing that you're doing. It feels like all of the things that you're doing are, placed in space in a way that's like actually relevant and meaningful. And it's just interesting to me to see like, oh, who's doing, anything in that space? Because it's also not, the mid 2000s anymore with 5, 6, 10 MMOs coming out a year, most of which nobody remembers the names of.
Mm-hmm.
But many of which have like ideas and new concepts that they're trying. That experimentation isn't really happening. I mean, I think the last MMO that we even talked about that released was New World. And New World was also doing, also kind of experimenting in this space. in a game like World of Warcraft or Final Fantasy XIV, they're sort of like the pinnacle of the previous iteration of design. Like Final Fantasy XIV is not going to completely overhaul its combat system again and be a different, more modern game. Like they have their niche.
Mm-hmm.
But what are games that are, have come out after that and haven't? What are they doing? What does that look like? And I think that one of the ones that really stands out to me is the new Genesis PSO2, because they clearly took PSO2 and they were like, we need to heavily modernize it, and did. And I think it's really interesting to see like what can you do and not do if your game needs to support a controller, for example. Because while I will say that like FF14 does support a controller, they have done a lot of work to support a controller. But I'm not going to say that game was built around a controller ethos.
I don't think the original was. I think it might be fair to say that the Realm Reborn was.
This statement hurts me. Like, it is the best controller interface I've seen for that style of MMO, like, to be fair. But it's an awkward experience playing with a controller. Not an unlearnable one, but like the fact that every class has like 30 buttons to press.
Yes.
Just doesn't map to what a controller wants to do all that well. And it's interesting to think about like you've got so many fewer buttons. What does that have to mean for, these different games? It's interesting to me like how much more combo driven PSO2 New Genesis is, where it's like you're kind of it's almost fighting game style. You're building combos in your attacks. Because are
your attacks like changing what, like, is the face button changing what it does to accommodate the combos, or is it just
just like you have a bit like your normal attack button just does a combo like it would be in basically any other action game?
Yeah, like my primary, so I'm playing a Braver, which is the Katana class. My primary attack has an attack and has 3 different attacks based on what direction I'm moving when I use it, as just like a baseline. And then I have a bunch of other abilities that can augment it if I land them. So like if I land my ranged attack, then my next melee attack performs differently. If I land a different attack, then my primary attack becomes, fancier for the next few hits. And I think that's interesting to sort of see. There's a lot of how you move matters in how you fight. And the way they play that with classes that are like not about, like the Braver is very much about moving a lot. So all of its attacks are encouraging movement. Whereas like the Hunter, the one with the one with a big gun, is very much about like setting up your shot and has a lot of stuff to help you set up your shot so that when you take a shot it matters. And it's really interesting to me to see like all of the different ways that they make inputs matter with a starkly smaller set of buttons to use, because you have like 6 abilities on a character. But in aggregate, once you start talking about movement and conditionals for all of them, like that expands pretty wildly into this one ability is actually, the equivalent of 6 different hotbar buttons.
Yeah.
But it's consolidated in a way that that makes you use them. I just need to break my habit of just strafing left all the time.
Braver is kind of unique in that particular respect, because I think it had that going on in the base game as well.
Yeah. When I play Tector, it's a lot the sort of red mage-ish class. It's a lot less that, and it's more about I'm not moving as much, but my spells all have like I'm a combination of melee and spells, and I really care about where I am in the fight so that I can land my spells in a big way. Like, oh, that's a line. Oh, that's a PBAOE. Oh, that's a cone or an arc. Let me use that in particular ways. But yeah, it was neat to hop in and kind of see what a few years of content updates do for a game that basically my only complaint with it was I don't feel like there's enough to do. And I come back and I'm like, oh my God, I'm flooded with things to do. What even do I care about doing? Let me figure that out first. I've gotten like 3 levels just by talking to people. They're like, hey, could you do this thing in this area? And I'm like, sure. And then the game's like, you already did all of those things. Here's a boatload of XP. Oh, cool.
I do like that they found a solution for the summoner being this weird thing that does not fit in the game proper by making it something that actually fits in the game proper.
Yes. There's a bunch of stuff that feels like it is recognizably the old class, but in a way that makes sense. They also added mouse invert.
Hooray.
I could have sworn they already had that.
I think that they did add it on release and didn't have it in beta or something. Because I remember I played this game originally on a controller.
And I also played on a controller, and I continue to play it on a controller.
So I had pushed this topic to the end of the list mostly because I figure we don't have a ton to say about it, but I also wanted to say something. Dawntrail released on Friday.
Dawntrail went into early at whatever.
Quote unquote.
Look.
Early access.
You can justify it however you want. It released. This is a very different game than what we've had before. It is telling a very different story than the 10-year arc leading up to this, and I am on board. Also, it is like a love letter to South America.
It is really cool. I've only been in 2 zones so far, and like how different they are and the obvious, influences on them. Very nice.
Yeah, like one of the zones that you end up in pretty early on it's just Peru.
It's Peru. You're in Peru for all practical purposes.
You might have just sold me on trying this expansion out on that sentence alone.
Like, the music is amazing.
As always, but I think even more so this time around.
Soka knocked it out of the park on this one.
Yep.
Like, the music that plays during the fight sequence in the Dawntrail trailer is this expansion's fight music. Like, this whole Spanish guitar kind of riff thing going on is amazing. It's so good.
I love it.
The capital city has this cool, like, big band swing theme.
Yeah.
I dig it.
So
like,
good.
I didn't think anything could be as good as the horns in Ratsatan, but this is also good.
Ratsatan is pretty great, though.
And the graphic upgrade is very nice. Like
lighting, specifically metal textures.
Yeah, just surfaces, anything metal and gems and things. Yeah, it's remarkably noticeable, the difference.
Gigantic, glistening, wet eyeballs.
Oh God! Yeah, there's one specific NPC race that just like really bothers me.
Yeah.
I mean, it's beautiful and also troubling.
Disturbing wet eyeballs. I kind of feel like I'm at the halfway point of the game based on just kind of where we're at, and like I feel like stuff's about to get weird.
Yeah.
That's when it usually does.
I'm waiting for the real weird stuff. Belle and I are about the same point. Feels about halfway, and just kind of keep holding my breath for when the real weird stuff is gonna get here. But
I mean, because like they've done the Square thing where like there's all these dangling plot threads that I know are gonna come back.
Those are there for a reason.
But some of those are gonna come back in like 3 expansions from now.
Yeah,
so.
yeah. But like I cannot fully emphasize how different of a tale it is.
It
is not a tale about us.
No.
It's about us coming in to help these people. And like not in a oh no, the world's ending. We're not coming into a catastrophe. Like we're coming into basically where they're basically deciding who the next ruler of this nation is going to be.
Yeah,
And-
and we're very much in a advisory role and not a savior role.
Yes, and I'm
Right.
very happy about that because they
Mhm.
could have done that wrong, and they've done a good job of I'm not the one making the decisions, directing things. I'm not supposed to be. I'm here to support this person. They are in charge. It's their choice.
And yes, we're here because it would be politically inconvenient for us if the wrong person won this. But also, we're just helping. We're not running things.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I do appreciate that our candidate is not the only good person who is a candidate, and even the one who is like a cartoon villain, I've started to see things that make me think maybe there's some more to his background that'll explain why he is like he is. I don't know.
What I find most interesting is like, okay, if this were the movie Highlander, we're not McLeod, we're Ramirez.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I love it. Like it's great. Like we had our tale. We had our 10-year tale.
I mean, like, we saved the world. What more do we want?
And it feels right. Like we flew to the end of the universe and saved the world. And like what do you do to follow that up? Like, I don't know, just wander around and help somebody else out with their stuff for a while.
Yeah.
Chill.
Yeah. This is definitely a Warrior of Light summer vacation.
Yes.
I do
I
think it's
like
kind of
that.
amusing that the creatures on this continent are like stronger and more dangerous than the things halfway across the universe. But that's just level-based game. Just don't think
Yeah.
about it too hard.
Yeah, like I wasn't sure how they were going to continue on after a 10-year arc, and they seem to have found a way, and I'm bought into it at this point.
With tacos and alpacas. That's how.
Yes.
Oh
And
no. I got a new phone since the last time I played.
Oh no.
Oh no.
Oh no.
This is an easy thing to fix.
Yeah.
Having had to do this before, but you do
It's
need
not
to
too
actually call them while they're open.
I have to call them?
You have to call them.
Is this 1995?
Yes.
I think I just emailed them when
have
I
you
like had to-
used any of their websites? Of course, it's 1995.
You've seen the box station. It hasn't changed. It's the same as it's always been.
About a
I
year.
guess you can
Yeah.
also email them.
Actually, it's
Yeah.
not 1995 because we're not having to, it's later than that because we're not having to deal with Play Online.
Right.
Thank your stars.
Play Online was terrible.
It was
Is
the
terrible.
worst.
But it's still old enough that they consider using Krista a reasonable solution. Yeah, like I highly recommend it, but I also highly recommend catching up first.
So I've been doing that, but also they released 2 new DPS classes. So I figured now's a great time to level a tank to 90. Yep, got it in one day.
Well,
Oh yeah, no, I saw a roving pack of Vipers and Pictomancers in Thavnair. It was terrifying.
But they only need to be there to hit level 81. At least I was only there to hit level 81 with them.
I don't know. I
Because
saw one of
after
them being
that-
90, so they just decided not to leave. I don't know.
I guess you can make that decision, but also like I like dungeons. And as a tank, they like me being in dungeons. So
But as a DPS, they have to do something while they're waiting for those dungeons.
right.
I've been impressed how many people are actually running Fates.
I mean, with the whole shared fate system they introduced in Shadowbringers, people are going to be doing fates in new zones.
I mean, you want to
Yeah,
at
I
least
mean,
do
you
6
need your
when you
map.
hit a zone for the
Right.
for the mount map. Yeah.
I kind of miss the Fate leveling days of ARR.
I don't. I do not miss these days.
I mean, like, I really enjoyed the Fate trains in Corthus. But, I mean, I'm sure by next week, several of us will be all the way to 100.
I will say that there is another interesting thing going on. Because I have been doing dungeons excessively, I've gotten to see what the new classes are like in dungeons. Viper is another melee DPS.
hmm
It's not that special. Pictomancer is the most capable class of pulling aggro off of you on the initial pull since Dancer released.
Yeah, I can see that. Drop those palms. Those hit hard.
The palms and the hammer. Like, You start a fight with those, you're definitely starting that fight.
Oh boy.
The fight might be ending you.
But painting is so fun.
But also maybe, limit your party graphics.
Yeah, I had to do this.
Yeah.
I mean, we already had Summoner. Now this.
This is worse than
There's a
Summoner.
lot going on.
Yeah, I had
This
to
is
do
a lot
that.
worse than Summoner.
Because in Alliance raids with Summoner, you can't see some of the things going on because you have giant summons in the way.
Yeah.
I could deal with Summoner. I occasionally play Summoner and I like it and I like seeing them, so I just left it. But yeah, Pictomensor pushed me over the edge. It's just no, I cannot with that. I cannot see what I'm doing.
So I have to, one of the dungeons, I ended up somehow in the mix being healed by Alice. And I went into that experience expecting to die because she would limit break. Because that's what Alice does, is limit break.
There'll be nothing left of you but a smoking crater.
But not only is Alice the more competent DPS, she's also the more competent healer.
Oh no.
Yeah, it's sad. Meanwhile, I got stuck with Alphino DPSing because I am leveling as a healer. He is not as competent a DPS as his sister.
It's interesting, going through the various duty support things, seeing which characters are better at DPS now that I'm doing this a little more. There are definitely some winners and some losers. Estinian, for how annoying he actually is, does a ton of damage.
Yes, he does.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas maybe don't rely on Alphino to heal you if that's a thing you need to have happen.
That said, the only time I've had one of the NPCs in my trust party fall over due to failing at mechanics, it was Urianger.
Oh, you're in jar.
I've had Alphino fail a few times. Usually he gets rezzed by his sister, because I usually have both of them.
I gave him on Alphino in my party, and would that have been Shadowbringers?
Grace and I were talking about this earlier. Alice is my battle buddy. Alphino is kind of that annoying kid brother that I actually like. But if I have to choose, I will always have Alice.
Yeah, no contest. And for me, it's been nice being a healer because most of the time it means I never have to have Alphino and I never have to have Urine Jar. And that's just fine by me.
As someone who usually does these as a tank, I usually have to have one or the other.
Yeah. It is way harder to do trust dungeons as a tank than as a DPS. Because as a DPS, I basically just stand on the healer. When the healer moves, I move. And I can, get out of all of the mechanics.
Except for those spread outs where you go somewhere and then the healer decides that they want to be in that spot.
But after doing this for a couple of expansions, when I started actually tanking the dungeons, I realized I don't know a lot of these dungeons. Because I ran them exactly once.
Oh, I'm that way with some of the Endwalker ones, but I do know all the Shadowbringers ones extremely well.
Well, I know all the Shadowbringers ones as well, but all the Endwalker ones I'm pretty hazy on.
I'm pretty sure I can still do Holminster Switch and whatever the
Meg.
second one was. Yeah.
Oh, Meg, yeah.
In my sleep / maybe I cannot be haunted by memories of them. Just in the time it took me to say that, I flickered through every encounter in Holminster Switch in my brain.
The thing that I find weird, though, is when they watered down a lot of dungeons for trust or duty, technically, they didn't seem to do that for the Shadowbringers dungeons, because
they already supported trusts.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
They had it from the beginning.
Okay, but how are they doing the thing where they have to run across the pit?
Most of them cheat. I don't know if you
Yeah.
remember that or not.
Watch them closely.
They're really, really funny.
Yeah, they each do their own
Alice
thing.
just freaking sprints for it, but I think Urianger goes a few steps and teleports the rest of the way.
Yep.
Most of them cheat.
Yeah.
Except Elfino,
Okay.
he goes super slow, like hands out wide, kind of balancing himself.
Yeah.
He doesn't make it
It's-
before the time.
They're genuinely funny. Also, I think that you don't have to be competent either. That you will have somebody in your party who will complete it even if you don't make it.
Yeah.
I remember
always
trying
hated
to make an
doing that.
incompetent party.
But if there are some old dungeons that are optional, did not get changed, by the way, for duty support, having gotten things like Smell Darkhold recently in Leveling Roulette.
Yep. For whatever reason, you get that a lot in Leveling Roulette.
I mean, you can't do it in the trust, so it makes sense you would start getting those more often.
Aurum Vale.
Aurum Vale is not that bad. Aurum Vale hasn't been that bad for a while.
Aurum Vale at this point is really easy.
That doesn't stop me having nightmares about it.
It's just that player capability at those levels have changed significantly since the game was initially released.
It's true.
The bosses have telegraphs, which helps.
The second boss, I thought the second boss still didn't.
I think they changed it.
Huh.
Or, Ormville? Well, you know what? I don't remember now.
Thought I was just watching a video where it had a telegraph.
He by now. I do remember that Coin Counter was especially awful because no telegraphs.
Yeah, that was, as a healer, that was the worst fight for me. Just dealing with everybody standing in the things.
Yeah. No, yeah. Actually, I'm pretty sure he does now, yeah.
That's nice. I didn't know that.
I think they added the telegraph to him because of Blue Mage, because he was the source of a Blue Mage ability that you actually needed for a Blue Mage quest.
That's
correct. Right, yeah.
Right, that happened then.
Cowards.
I kind of agree, but yeah, Glower is a Blue Mage spell, and you got to get it from there, or the Fate, basically. And it's much easier to get it from there than the Fate.
At some point, I want to pick back up and start leveling my Blue Mage again. I don't remember where I left off.
I'm not sure what the max level for Blue Mage is now.
It's 80.
Is it 80 now? Okay, I got a long way to go.
Mine is 70.
Mine is 57.
Mine is 51.
So, okay. So you level up Blue Mage and get the things.
Uh-huh.
And then what?
The Blue Mage has its own instance solo content that you can do with it, called the Mass Carnival.
Mm-hmm.
But also you can just play it out in the world if something does not require you to be a normal battle quest.
Yeah, you can also join Party Finder with Blue Mage for a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, doing groups in a group of Blue Mages gets you credit in a Blue Mage log.
Gotcha.
And these are a lot of fun.
All right. Because I was like...
It has its own
yeah,
content basically independent of the rest of the game.
Sure. Fair enough. Because I was definitely like, you can run around out in the world with it. I'm like, doing what?
Yeah, but why would you want to do that? Yes.
Why would I ever run around in the world doing anything? Like,
Farming?
I've not looked in a while, but a lot of times there are just active Blue Mage groups in Party Finder.
Yeah, there usually are.
There usually are, yeah.
Whenever there's stuff involving fates, like back for Stormblood, where you had to farm fates for the relic stuff and like the yokai stuff, Blue Mages will go into the fates and just like destroy everything. That's a big Blue Mage thing.
They don't let you play this class in real content because it would be super overpowered.
Yep.
Yeah.
Which is kind of a shame, but also kind of fun. I have made my peace with it being overpowered because it's a lot of fun.
Anyway, everything is too fresh to talk about anything regarding story, so...
Yeah, it's like, I have many things I would like to say, but I will not. Not ready to do spoilers, and I can't talk about anything without them.
Yeah, basically.
Yep.
Anyway, any final thoughts about anything?
If you enjoy going fast or watching people go fast, Summer Games Done Quick is starting. It's gonna run for this week.
Yay.
You can check out the schedule. I'm excited for Dini Percent by Carrarium, which is running Monica's D-sides until she gets to the summit, and Celeste 64, which should be very quick, but it looks like it'll be a good one.
Well, hopefully you enjoyed the show, and we will see you again next week. Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Night.
See ya.